Just because you dumped your crazy ex doesn't mean it's over for them. No, they've just started a new game called Ending Your Life. This is Darkness Prevails, the best place to share your creepy true stories with the world, because this world is a strange one. Almost everyone has that ex they never want to see again, out of fear for your life and sanity. But sometimes your ex is impossible to rid yourself of. Those obsessed ones that will have you no matter what, whether you're alive or otherwise. Prepare yourself to face your past with these allegedly true scary stories of crazy exes. Remember, you can share your stories with me using the link in the description. Also, think about getting one of my shirts at morbidmonsters.com. We have this new shirt for all you demon lovers, just in time for Valentine's Day. Real quick, here are my favorite earliest comments from my previous video. Toxic Nightmare asks, when are you gonna sell dad hats again? The printers of the hats are really picky about the designs, so as soon as I get a new design, I'll sell them happily. Parvis Gaming says, Pats will win. Oh, my poor child. I don't even like sports and that's hilarious. Jade, though, says, I'm here again. I can't type fast enough. Congratulations, Jade. You've been noticed. Now get back to work. Admorier Gladio says, Meme Lord of the horror community. Last time I checked, my name isn't Swamp Dweller. And Trek Background says, I've always been fascinated by insane asylums. For some reason, I lulled at this because it had a Batman profile picture. Maybe something's wrong with me. Anyway, let's jump into these stories of crazy ex encounters. Just so you know, the game I'm playing in the background is called Rise of Insanity. You can click that link in the description to play it yourself. Number 1. My ex thinks she's the devil. Submitted by Claudio J. This story all started when I began to have feelings for another girl while I was with my girlfriend. Her name was Ashley, and the other girl I was secretly admiring was named Jordan. Now Ashley and I had been dating for a couple of years, and I could tell she was waiting for me to propose. Ashley was unique and stunning. The only thing I didn't know was that she was insane. I was beginning to get to know Jordan. I was the school's fool and adrenaline junkie. We very soon became close friends, enough so that I sadly had to break up with Ashley. And at the time, even though I felt like the jerk, it was for the best, because Ashley was crazy. I never told her why I broke up with her. I just said that it wasn't working out. Me and Jordan began to take it to the next level. We were dating before we knew it. It was going smoothly and naturally, until one day I got a text from Ashley saying something like, I know what you did. You'll pay for it with your soul. What the hell? I thought to myself when I saw that text. It was a little spooky and really weird. Around 11:46 that night, I was getting more messages, one after another, all of them looking like Harry Potter spells or something. Now there were several, and I kid you not, that said, Slash grada eron nerverna, equantotum deverera, mensch la draga zifra notonia. I wanted to laugh, and felt a little chilled at the same time. I was thinking she was probably drunk or high or something. It was nearly midnight, and she was sending crap like this. No one does that. I figured it was just an extra salty breakup, so I went to bed. As I began to open my eyes the next day, in the morning, I checked my phone first thing. Messages began to pop up again, and of course they were all from the crazy girl herself. The first one read, I see you're awake. Nice to know you survived. I don't like that you cheated on me. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to go to hell? As I saw and read these texts, I soon said a prayer, only to receive another text saying, God can't help you now. It may have been a coincidence that she said that as soon as I got done praying, but it gave me chills throughout my whole body. Immediately after, I heard a loud slam on my front door. Immediately, I stand up. I hear someone walking toward my room, and then my bedroom door was kicked open. There stood Ashley, wearing all black, with a red fluid coming down her forehead. With a closer look, I saw that this insane girl had carved a pentagram into her own forehead, and she still had a knife in her hand. Immediately, I began to climb out my window, and I called the police. I was not doing this today, or any day for that matter. I wasn't about to get shivved by my psycho ex. The police arrived, but she was already long gone. So I ended up filing for a restraining order on her, and luckily things have calmed down since then. There's just no telling what she's going to do next. If I have anything to say for this experience, it's to look for the warning signs early in the relationship, and remember to get to know your girlfriend better than you already do. Because you never know, you could wake up after a bad breakup and find her standing over you with a knife. Number 2. My ex-boyfriend I wish I never met. Submitted by Tomboy Gamer 1360. Before I begin my story, I need to give you guys a background so you can know where I'm coming from. I'm 14 and have 2 older sisters, both of which have finished college. They're 39 and 26 in that order. I also have 2 twin younger brothers at the age of 5. My parents are Christians, so they always have a cross in every room. My mother works as a doctor, and my dad as a diner owner. That being said, I'm always left to watch my brothers, unless they are over at our grandmother's house, which isn't too far, maybe an 8-mile drive from where we live. My parents are always all over me 24/7, trying to get me to succeed and try harder. Anyway, this story takes place when I was 11. It was my 5th grade year, and it was the time for graduation, so late May and early June. My best friend, who we'll name Kay, always had my back. Unfortunately, she moved a week before graduation, so I was left friendless and heartbroken. Kay had always been there with me since day 1. From the first day of kindergarten to almost the ending of 5th grade, we had the same classes. It was almost like she was always there with me. It was like I was being punished or something, having my friendship torn away from me. Thankfully, my other friend, now current boyfriend, A, was there for me and kept me happy. I don't know where I would have been without him. In June, I received a message on Kik from a guy who we'll call In. I had no idea who In was or how he got my Kik account, because I only gave it out to close friends. Now, this was before social media became a huge hit, so being able to have a phone and social media was a privilege for me. Anyway, back to In. In messaged me during school time saying, "Hey, how are you? I hope I'm not wasting your time." I was very hesitant to answer this message because I had no clue who he was or if he was some type of weirdo. So I didn't answer the text. I left it as is until I felt safe in my room. Later that day, when I was upstairs, I decided to check the message. I answered the guy by saying, "Dude, not to be rude, but I don't know you and you texted me while I was in class. How did you get my account?" Not a few moments later after sending the text, I got a response saying, "Oh, my bad. I thought you were the girl on Roblox. If you want, I'll remove you right away." I was actually shocked that he could have answered me that quickly. I thought to myself, maybe he just got home or was homeschooled to have received my text that fast. It was almost like he waited for me to respond, even though it took me about 3 hours to even text him back. So I texted back saying, "No, it's fine. I could always use some new friends." A few minutes goes by and he replies, "That's great. So what's your name, so I can address you properly?" I told him my name, and he told me his name, but let's just call him In. I asked In if he had a picture of himself, which he did. He sent me about 15 of them. I responded with, "You're pretty cute." So I sent him pictures of myself to make it fair. We then exchanged actual phone numbers. We continued to talk from there. When it was around 9:37 p.m. that night, he asked if he could call me. I felt nervous and scared. You can't always trust people even if they might seem nice, so I had to lie to him and say that I had a bedtime and that I needed to be off to bed. He then sends me a text saying, "Why not? It's Friday. You can stay up a little longer. What's the rush?" I then told him that I needed to go to the hospital for something important. He says, "Okay then, good night, baby doll." I was more confused, but then again a little happy. I don't get a lot of romantic attention from guys. Most of them are just friends with me. So to hear this coming from him at the time, I felt happy and like I actually meant something to him. I was a stupid little 11-year-old. I let him say this. Once I ended the conversation with him, I went to text my guy friend, A. When I told A what happened, he said that he didn't like In and that I needed to block him. I told A that this was the first time for a guy to say this to me, that he should be happy for me. A is a year older and my best friend since I was 7. He told me that guys shouldn't be calling girls names like that, because they do that to trick girls into liking them, only to have their hearts broken a moment later. I told A that he's just being jealous, and I told him that I was going to bed. He said, "Okay, fine. Sorry for coming on strong, but if you decide to date this guy, don't come crying to me when he breaks your heart." I sent A goodnight text and began to text my best friend K. Now K was really happy for me. She told me that I should date him, and then told me some rules on dating, and that if we break up, that she wants dibs. I told her no way, and we joked about it for a while. The next morning at about 10, I get a new message from In, reading, "Hi, baby doll. How did you sleep?" Now at this point, what A had said to me the night before made me have the courage to say, "Please don't call me that unless we're actually dating." I guess In had this planned out, because once he saw my message, he replied with, "Oh, so you want to date me? Is that why you let the name slide last night? So, wanna go out?" I had no words at that point. I felt like I was being hit by a truck, because he came at me so quickly and straightforward. I was young, impressionable. I know he looked nice in his pictures, but I had never even talked on the phone with him yet, and he wanted to date me. "No, not now. I'm only 11. It would be weird," I texted. I guess I angered In, because he then said, "Oh, okay, fine then. We're going to talk tonight about this, and you better answer my text, okay?" What? I thought to myself. He's yelling at me through text. I didn't know what to say. I just had my mouth opened in shock. That was the first red flag that came to my mind. He first wants to call me, then asks me for me to date him, and now he's yelling at me because I said no. I should have ended it right then and there, never responded to him again. But no, I agreed to his text, and I said okay. What was wrong with me back then? I'd seen all the red flags going off in my head at that point, but I ignored each and every one of them. After that day, a couple of months go by, and we are FaceTiming each other. Another friend of mine named H came into view on my end and gave me a hug, saying that I was his best friend. I laughed, and then saw only 2 seconds later that N had hung up on FaceTime, sending a text saying that he can also cheat as well. It took me 2 hours to explain to N that he was just my friend. Obviously, he was like a jealous type of guy and couldn't trust me around other guys. Another red flag that I ignored. Other than that incident that day, everything else was fine. It was like he was in different moods whenever I did anything wrong. So after that, as I was so insecure and didn't want to lose In, so I made sure that any contact with my male friends was left to be unseen from him. You can probably tell by now that In was quite demanding. He was somewhat controlling over me. I would often get messages from followers on Instagram. It was an influx of messages from other girls, claiming to be from his state or school. Apparently, they were looking out for me, telling me that I needed to break up with In and find someone else fast before something happened. I thought it was just a prank. Maybe it was his friends just messing with me. God, I wish I wasn't so boy crazy back then. Why couldn't I see what was happening? I don't know. Months passed, and altogether me and In were now about 2 years into our relationship. And by then, I was beginning to think our relationship wasn't the best, and we should probably break up. So in the summer of 2016, he came down to my area. This was going to be our first time to see each other, instead of just on a screen. I told him that I wanted to meet at a place where it was public. We agreed, and we met up at the local park, because a few blocks down there was a restaurant that me and him could pick up some lunch at. Then we could have his mom pick us up and drop me off at home while they go back to their hotel. We meet up, and I could see that he was cute in person as he was on screen. I had my best friends K, H, and A watching from a distance. I was so happy that K could make it, because she was visiting her dad that week, so I thanked her for being there for me. In and I ended up talking for about 2 hours, and he even gave me his hoodie. Afterwards, we walked to the restaurant and asked for a table. I gave a message to my best friend saying, "The dragon is in the nest." It was our joke of a way to send the message for the 3 of them to come join us. As usual, I hugged all 3 of them, but I saw that In was getting angry. He tugged me by my arm and told me silently, "I could break up with you right now if I wanted to, but let's act like I just told you something funny, so your friends don't think I'm some psycho. God, this is the last time you'll see your friends tonight. Now laugh." Him being so rough with me verbally and physically, I can't explain how I was feeling at that point. So I did as I was told. I laughed, but it was so awkward. It was a giveaway to my friend Kay, who noticed how weird it was, then asked if I needed to go to the bathroom with her. I nodded and quickly walked to the bathroom. Once there, I told Kay everything that had been happening the past few days, and she was stunted. She said that we needed to be out of his vision right now, and that In needs to be out of my life. So me and Kay managed to find the back door, and we texted the boys H and A that we are waiting outside. I texted In a long paragraph of a message. Once it was sent, I told Kay that we need to get to my house, away from the restaurant and away from In. When we got back to my house, I was beginning to calm down, but then there was a banging at the door not too long after. Someone was outside yelling, calling me curse words and saying things like, "I'm going to enjoy taking your life and drinking your blood. You don't cross me. You don't cross me at all, girl. You're going to regret this. I'm going to make sure of that." We called the police. She was on with the dispatcher, who then said that the cops were on their way. We actually later found out that while In was at the restaurant, after receiving my message that it was over and that I was going home without him, he pulled a knife on H and A, my guy friends who were there at the restaurant still, keeping an eye on him. So that made it all clear. In was psychotic. How could I have missed that about him? He was carrying a weapon, threatened to hurt me, and he meant it. What was wrong with this guy? Long story short, the parents of these boys were informed, and they told me that the reason In wanted to keep me was that when he was a child, he was very close to a girl who had suddenly disappeared. They believed that this didn't sit right with their son, but after everything that happened, Something tells me that he might have caused that disappearance, and I'm glad that I didn't become the next disappearance. In will be spending the rest of his childhood life in juvie, and H&A came out unscathed somehow, and I couldn't be happier. Number 3. Psycho X Tries to Stab Me, submitted by JACOBP. I'm 14 years old and from Ottawa, Canada. This story took place 2 years ago at the beginning of my 8th grade year. This new girl, let's call her Claire, came to my school. She wasn't in any of my classes, but she was in my friend Cole's class. A week goes by, nothing out of the ordinary happens. Then one day at lunch, Claire and a group of her friends were looking at me and my friend Cole. We didn't think much of it, but later that night I got a text from a random number that I didn't know. The text said, "Hey," followed by 2 extra Ys. I responded with a, "Who's this?" They then replied, "It's the girl from lunch that was looking at you." And that begins our relationship of texting and hanging out at school, and I soon found myself liking her. Then, when I felt the time was right, I asked her out. She didn't hesitate to say yes. She told all of her friends, and the news quickly got out to my cousin, who is a year younger and goes to Claire's old school. Her name is Danny. Danny texted me this saying, "Why, Jacob, you barely know her. You don't know what she's done." I responded with, "What do you mean?" Danny then says, "She smokes, she's loose." Being a teenage guy at that age, I was thinking, well, dang, this is my chance. But then Danny texted me once more and said, she put her last boyfriend in the hospital after attacking him with a knife in the gut. My heart dropped because this was my first ever real relationship, but I certainly didn't want that to happen to me. I was very curious to see if these rumors were true, so I texted her that night, asking if she wanted to play 21 questions. She agreed. We started off with "What's your favorite color?" and simple things like that. Then I got into more serious questions. Have you ever done drugs? Have you ever slept around? Which she all said yes to. Then on the last question before I had to go to bed, I asked her, "What happened to your last boyfriend?" She responded suspiciously with, "What do you mean? Have you already heard? Who told you?" I didn't want to rat out my cousin, so I simply said I was curious. She then said, "Gotta go, bye." The next day comes along, and she asks me to go over to her place. She said that she's home alone. But I was scared of what happened to her last boyfriend, yet I was excited, hoping that she might put out. I said yes, but as soon as I sent the message, my dad called me up from the basement and said, "Jacob, come up for some hockey. We're running late and it's the first practice of the year." I was upset and relieved at the same time. I had a real excuse not to go over, but upset that I couldn't. After hockey, I came home to my friend Cameron texting me 30 minutes before. The message read, "Sucks you couldn't go over to Claire's house. You would have had the time of your life." I responded with, "What do you mean, Cameron?" He said, "Your girlfriend. She was great." I was heartbroken. My friend Cameron, who knew I was with Claire, had met up with her, so to speak. I texted Claire immediately after. "Claire, we're done." What I didn't expect was for her to beg me to stay, but I said no, that's it. Later on that night, she sent me a picture on Snapchat showing her arm all freshly cut up, and the caption said, "All thanks to Jacob." I went to bed and didn't say anything in reply. I just let her take her time to recover. The next morning, I woke up with over 100 text messages, all covered in knife emojis. I was scared for my life, to be honest. It was Monday, so I had to go to school, and her locker was right behind mine. so I couldn't see if she was going to do something. I was afraid she might jump me at any moment. The day dragged on slowly, and at every point of it I was scared. I ended up getting so paranoid that I asked the principal if they could do a locker search because I felt very unsafe at the school that day. The principal needed to know why, and I showed her the text messages. After that, she didn't hesitate to say yes. When she came back, she told me what they found, and I was in shock. They found 2 grams of pot, a bong, a needle with ink, razor blades, and a 3-inch knife with Jacob carved into it. The principal quickly called the police, and she was expelled from our school. I hadn't heard anything about her until last week. I was at my cousin Danny's wedding, and she told me that Claire, after the incident, jumped between 3 different schools because at every one she went to, she caused another similar incident to mine. I really dodged a knife with that one. Number 4. Crazy Girlfriend, submitted by Tom. As with most guys my age, in my teenage years I was a little girl crazy. One week dating one girl, another week with a different girl. But one of these girls was quite different. During early senior year at my high school, there was a pep rally, and I saw this blonde girl who was stunning and sitting alone. I climbed down the bleachers and sat next to her, and I began to engage her in a conversation. Pretty soon we started dating, and pretty soon after that we got intimate. When I look back on it now, I wish I would have eased her down, but at that age I was young and stupid. So at one point I decided that she was unworthy of being my girlfriend, and she soon became another ex as I moved on to something more new and interesting. I know it was a jerk move. That's when it started. One night when I was getting ready for bed, I heard tapping on my window. I just played it off as a branch because it had been windy recently. This same routine seemed to continue over and over. Every night, the tapping seemed to get louder and louder. I was getting fed up. On one occasion, I jumped out of my bed and grabbed my baseball bat, and I had a terrible gut feeling about everything. I slowly unlocked my door as to not wake up my dog or parents. I walked out of the house to my window, and there I saw her. She was crouching down, with only her eyes level with the window so she could peek inside. I could see her looking in, scanning my room to see if I was there. Obviously, she must not have caught me walking out of my room with my baseball bat. Me being absent from my room must have sparked her caution, because then she began to look around, and that's when she saw me, carrying my bat, and watching her in dismay and disbelief. She took off running in the opposite direction. Every night for the past week, this girl has been coming to my house in the middle of the night to tap on my window and stare at me while I'm sleeping. The next day, I found huge scratches on my car, and my windows were busted out. I soon came to the realization that she wasn't only trying to torment me, but she had tried to get inside my house at one point, to do God knows what. And number 5, My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, submitted by Josh M. I was only 16 years old when this happened. It all started at this party that my friend threw. He was pretty close to me, so I was obligated to go, although I didn't want to. At the time, I was helping him set up for the party. Since we were kids still and thought we were cool, we had his older brother buy us some alcohol for the party. I'm outside setting up the alcohol, cautious because cops usually do checks throughout the night, and I see this car rolling up to the house. Being the stupid kid I was, I went up to the car. I yelled to them, "The party doesn't start for another hour." Ignoring me, she walks out of the car and trots toward the house. We lock eyes, and all I'll say is that I woke up with her in my friend's bed. She stuck around for a while until we got into fights, not just little fights. I mean full-on arguments, throwing furniture and not seeing each other until the end of the night. I ended up breaking up with her pretty quickly. A few weeks go by, living my new single life and not hearing anything from her for a while. And then I started getting creepy messages, including pictures of me in my room. Sometimes I was asleep. I brushed it off like it was one of my family members pulling a prank on me. Months would go by with these texts. Soon I started to get worried because none of my family was owning up to it, and things were getting creepier. I would hear knocking at my window in the middle of the night. I would see figures in the distance following me that looked a lot like her. Now the girl I was with was getting creepy texts as well, saying things like, "He'll always be mine," or "Stay away if you know what's good for you." This is when we involved the police, tracking the texts and catching her. I never heard from her again. The world of love and dating is more like a battleground, or a battle royale. You're looking for companionship, while a select few are looking for victims, prey to abuse, to neglect, to demean, or even kill. I know it might be tough to be lonely, even on Valentine's Day, but it's worth waiting for the right one, because one wrong relationship could be your last one altogether. Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Remember, you can share your stories with me using the links in the description. And check out morbidmonsters.com for some creepy cool shirts. Have a great Valentine's Day in the coming week or so. And as always, stay safe out there and stay creepy.